This video mostly centers on the subject of health, but the same principles apply to any subject of life. The law is the law, and it operates the same no matter what it's creating. If you've been in a space where you know the law is real, but aren't creating the progress you desire, I understand your dilemma. Truth is, the answer was always right in front of me, but my willingness to see it was clouded by my perpetual intimidation and fear of my physical reality. Nothing of significance shifted in my physical reality until I committed entirely to two concepts: that what I chose to imagine in my mind is actual, real reality, and that the entirety of my physical reality, even the scariest and most intrusive conditions, are just an illusion and have no significance or relevance to the realness of what I've imagined, which the imagining alone fulfilled my desire. In practicality, this looked like imagining and accepting as truth that I was wealthy and having a blast continually building my financial prowess and net worth, all while in my physical reality I was $400,000 in debt with an income that would never even begin to chip away at that, was living paycheck to paycheck, and was even being sued by a prior creditor. Health-wise, I imagined powerful strength, feeling proud and amazing to be in my body, adventurous, uninhibited, and unendingly well, all while my physical reality was presenting the experience of being 20 years with quite a treacherous and limiting autoimmune illness. I'll only share some of the physical conditions that existed in my 3D so you can see just how strongly the evidence around me contradicted the wonderful states of being I was occupying in my imagination. The truth is, no matter how much they bark or even bite, the conditions of our physical realities don't matter in the slightest with regard to the actuality of what we imagine. Our physical realities only become our masters because somewhere along the way we agreed they were. If you're ever going to truly create the reality you desire, it's completely necessary to untether and break away from this hypnosis that compels you to believe your physical reality is what's real, controls you, and has independent authority over you. That's literally the shift that changed 8 years of me getting nowhere. Let's talk about the law real quick. The law is impartial and consistent. It has no reference for good or bad, wanted or unwanted, healthy or unhealthy. It has no mind of its own, and it never blames, tests, blesses, or supersedes you. It simply takes the story you've cultivated in your imagination and gives it back to you in the form of physical experience. Your physical reality is simply the experience of what you've imagined or what states of being you occupy the majority of the time. Often, when we're not creating what we desire, part of our story, I am scared by or powerless against my physical reality, or this is hopeless, there's no way out. The law is simply, objectively, and literally giving these thoughts back to you to experience. The law doesn't receive what you imagine and ask, "Are you sure you want this?" The law has no regard for what you want or desire. It doesn't care how you feel about what you've created already. It simply receives what you've persisted in imagination, your states of being, and the resulting beliefs and thoughts, and says, "Coming right up, boss." It makes no difference to the law whether what it produces makes your day or sinks your ship. It's not a God choosing to withhold or provide. You or your imagination are the authority here. But if you're stuck in unwanted cycles and not creating what you desire, then you've given that authority over to your physical reality. You've made it your God, and under this perspective, anything you imagine can only be a pipe dream or wishful thinking, at best. If we're continually manifesting the unfulfillment of our desire, it's because we've placed authority in a reality that shows us they are unfulfilled. Take that authority back, fulfill your desires in imagination, embrace your imagination as reality, and remain vigilant and uncompromising in this perspective regardless of what your physical reality has to say about it. In essence, your acceptance of your imagined reality as real must become second to none, and I mean none. Neville states throughout his teachings that we can never become the desired version of ourselves while we continue to indulge the old self, the version of ourselves which created the unwanted physical reality. He's essentially saying that we can't hold a belief in two opposite states of being at once. We can't maintain states, beliefs, and thoughts of illness and expect to produce health. The same goes for poverty and wealth, loneliness and love, unworthiness and worth, etc. How can you tell what states you've been persisting in? If you're unsure, take a look at the contents of your life, unwanted health conditions included. Remember, your physical reality has no authority over you, it's just information. Treat it as such. Giving it any more meaning keeps you stuck to it, and is certain to keep the physical experience your old self created firmly in place. When I first manifested my autoimmune diagnosis at 17 years old, the doctor told me all the things I wouldn't do and stated I should lower my expectation for wellness in life. This and the many other limiting ideas from medical professionals, peers, and loved ones I'd received in the years following became my story, which became my physical experience, and it manifested in some unwanted physical form in every aspect of my life. My physical world became what felt like an ever-limiting experience of discomfort, failure, frustration, loneliness, self-hatred, lack, never enough, etc. Our stories never stay isolated to one subject. And I guarantee your unwanted health conditions are not just the result of how you think about health, but how you think about yourself, your identity, and your relationship to the world in general. My personal story in general was pretty hopeless, defeating, and self-loathing long before my unwanted health conditions presented themselves. I'll tell you from experience, if ongoing unwanted conditions persist in your reality, it's only because you persist in unwanted states in your mind. Stop allowing them. The old self has to die so the new self can live. I still get awestruck when I recall how quickly things shifted once I drew the line in the sand and decided that my imagined reality was actual reality, and my entire physical experience was just a reproduction of prior states of being and irrelevant to the inevitability of my desired reality, which I had established and persisted in my imagination. You see, a true commitment to this perspective means a true commitment to choosing and being the version of you that you desire, which rather quickly kills off the identities of the old self that created the unwanted. The old self doesn't matter. Right now, you get to be the new self if you choose, and you can place yourself into a state of amazing health, vitality, strength, power, wealth, expansion, opportunity, love, or whatever you desire. Close your senses to the physical conditions around you. They mean nothing in regards to what you get to create next, and you don't need their permission to be the new self. If your health struggles cause you pain or really bark at you, don't try to pretend that you don't feel them or notice them. Observe them, and if necessary, obtain relief through the means available to you, but neutralize any authority you've previously given them. The same goes for diagnoses, outlooks, notions about how long something takes to heal if it can even heal, or limited perceptions, etc. Go through the motions. But unless you want to continue with them, strip them and their limitations of any and all meaning, and go right back to identifying with your imagined ideals. Exist in this identity as often as you can throughout your day. Make it your new ordinary. If you've lived feeling subservient to your physical reality, haven't you had enough? No prognosis or symptoms, regardless of their intrusiveness, perceived permanency, or severity, stand a chance when you've traded in the belief in physical world authority and replaced it with the authority of your inner reality, commanded by your imagining your desires fulfilled. The funny paradox is that we only keep unwanted conditions alive in our physical reality because we continue to imagine that they have independent authority and power over us, and thus the law gives it back to us to experience. You can stop this belief now, and your reality will shift. How you get there is up to you, but once you've decided that your imagined reality is what's real, be vigilant and persistent about remaining there. It may feel like you're kidding yourself at first, but it takes persistence to kill off the old self. Persist, persist, persist. If your experience is like mine, you'll feel your new self or the new story take over internally before you see it physically manifest. You may still observe old, unwanted conditions for a time, but you're assured they're on their way out because they just can't belong in the new reality you've imagined. This is where you continue shutting the senses to anything reminding you of your old story and persist. Let your excuses go. Let your I can't go. The moment you believe you're too far gone for anything to change, or perhaps decide my success was only possible because my conditions were easier to fix than yours, you're back in your old story. Our actual physical details are always irrelevant unless we're going to persist in the old story and keep it alive in our physical experience. Comparisons to anyone or anything outside yourself or anything that undermine your new imagined reality have got to go. You have to believe in the validity of your new self far more than that of your old self if anything is going to change. That's essentially it. But I think the following points will help. Shame, guilt, and blame. While you embrace that you've created the unwanted conditions of your physical reality, if you experience any shame, guilt, or blame, know these are simply old self-emotions arising because you've given meaning to your physical reality. Any notions of these emotions are simply untrue. Remember, the law never cared. It just physicalized what your imagination handed it. You've done nothing wrong by creating unwanted conditions. No punishment is being doled out, and no penance is needed to dissolve them. Feel the freedom in embracing self as cause. After all, if you created it, you can uncreate it and create something new in its place. Remember, as you authentically live in your wonderful imagined reality, shutting your senses to any part of your physical reality which would deny your imagining, you are giving the law the new story to create for you. The state of the wish fulfilled. Keep in mind that wanting is an entirely different state than having, and desire is entirely different than fulfillment. We don't want what we have, and we don't desire what's been fulfilled. With regards to any struggle, because of the authority we've previously given our physical reality, we often frame our desires from the state of wanting and not having. A state of wanting to be healed just reproduces more conditions that reaffirm your experience of wanting to be healed. A state of being healthy, energized, strong, vigorous, etc. leads to the experience of these things. The law gives you the physical experience of the state you occupy. You can be anything in your imagination. I recommend going right to the state of having fulfillment versus a state that still involves the unwanted conditions in your story, such as being healed, being cured, etc. Manifesting techniques. Techniques have no actual power. It's the states, beliefs, and thoughts you occupy in your imagination that create. Techniques can be helpful in getting there, but avoid getting hung up on if you're doing X technique correctly. You were born with the innate ability to imagine, and you do it all day long. It's just thinking and feeling. You also know how you most enjoy imagining. At the end of the day, what causes you to feel your desired state as real is correct. If this involves a technique that you enjoy, then great. If not, then great. Personally, techniques feel like homework, whereas just shifting myself into the feeling of my desired state as often as possible feels natural and powerful. I continually practiced occupying my desired states frequently during my everyday life, and it was so enjoyable. The desired states became my default being, and soon after, my physical reality. Taking action. Controversial perhaps, but I firmly believe from experience no action needs to be taken in your physical reality in order to create what you desire. Reality isn't created through physical action. It's created through becoming what you desire in imagination. The only action required of you is to live your wish fulfilled while knowing that is your true reality. The how is the law's job, and it doesn't need your help. It'll clearly call you into action if that action is to be a part of your bridge of incidents, and it will feel entirely natural to you. It doesn't need you to go on an expedition to figure out how to manipulate physical reality to create what you want. That's what you were doing before when you viewed physical reality as having independent authority over you. How was that going? The law only asks you to give it the state of being or story you want to create, and persist in this state so that it becomes your inner reality. This means that no prescription, remedy, course of treatment, or physical thing is going to cause your health, strength, and well-being. In and of themselves, they are meaningless. It's only through choosing health and wellness in your imagination, your actual reality, and persisting in those states that you will truly create them in your experience. I'm not advocating for stopping the physical world treatments or things you're currently doing to obtain relief. As you live more and more from the perspective that your imagined reality of health and wellness is your actual reality, any inclinations to involve yourself in what you've been doing may continue, or they may shift as your bridge of incidents calls you to the physical fulfillment of your desires. That's a personal decision no one outside of you needs to be involved in, but please don't force anything. As you identify more and more with the states of being healthy, well, powerful, thriving, etc., while shutting your senses to the physical unwanted, you will create the experience of resources finding you, doors opening, information and opportunities coming your way. Or you may just feel and see improvement. I had all of the above happen over time. Take it all in easy stride, and know it's simply you have the experience of being healthy and well because you've occupied these states. Remember, because we're now viewing imagination as reality, there's no action to take. You're already healthy, well, strong, etc. because you have imagined such. And that is actual reality. You're simply allowing your physical reality to catch up, involving others in this process. You never intended to need anyone's or anything's permission to create the reality you desire. Believing otherwise is just an extension of believing that your physical world has authority over you. But we've changed that now, right? By appointing your imagined reality as actual reality, you are simply giving the law permission to produce it for you. It will. If your conditions have you heavily involved with medical professionals, caretakers, or you rely on others, remember, these are the creations of the old self. Continue playing along, and go through the motions detached from their significance or meaning. No one needs to know of your shifting internal state in order for you to successfully create your new reality. In fact, I'd stay quiet about it unless you completely trust someone who will understand. What you will notice as you identify with your new self in imagination as actual reality, along with your improving physical state, those around you will naturally shift to seeing you as you're seeing yourself, healthy, strong, powerful, etc., and they'll be thrilled for you. Others that have a specific involvement like doctors, caretakers, etc. will make their exit at the right time. When it comes down to it, I didn't actually cure or heal any of my unwanted health conditions. The notion of even needing to be healed or cured was part of the old self, whom I killed off. I simply created a new self where I was healthy, well, thriving, and in all sorts of other desired states of being. I persisted in these states in my imagination and let that be real enough until it was real in my physical reality. Almost none of this newly desired physical reality manifested in ways that I could have replicated with my own physical force or action, and it did not occur as expected. Often, I'd realize a new aspect of my desired reality had been created under my nose. It was fantastic, and it still is. Creating a new reality is the stuff of life, literally. You get to define what that ideal state is for you. Persist. Honestly, you'll never be the same when you experience yourself moving mountains.